This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing. It's Sunday here on Racesport TV and on the iRacing Esports Network, and it is time for the 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulation. And whilst the Monster Energy NASCAR Series head themselves to a road course, we head ourselves to an oval, or kind of. We're at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, so welcome to Loudon, New Hampshire, and welcome to this round of the championship. Let's get those championship points up on the left-hand side of your screen. Heading into this event is Philippe Burr with the championship lead, 376 points, and that is, Gary, a healthy margin right now, 71 points over Andrew Picorio, who's in second place. Greg Zeitz currently runs in third.
Yeah, definitely a very healthy margin, as you mentioned. Pretty much nothing to worry about for the time being, but when coming to this track, I'm really looking forward to seeing how these drivers play out. A few are more than likely going to be warming their tires here for their warm-up lap, so I am really looking forward to seeing how these drivers will take to this track, and well, with the point standings being incredibly close between a few drivers, that's going to play a little bit into effect of some racing here.
Yeah, and of course, as you probably know by now, it is one qualifying lap here in the 2K World Cup. It is the Loudon road layout. There's a number of different layouts you can have here. In fact, there's 3 of them. We're running the oval through turns number 1 and 2. However, we're running the inside of the track through NASCAR turns 3 and 4. We're on board with Philippe Burr in that TT racing car. We saw a lot of this last time out, Gary, and we're seeing a lot of it again. These drivers trying to get some heat into their tyres, and for Burr, he's got to be careful, of course, because you can pretty much go flat out from about now as he heads onto his flying lap.
Yeah, you have to be, again, like as you mentioned, very careful as he will, as well as you mentioned, start his lap. And with the way that some of these drivers have been warming their tires, I've been seeing some of them actually not even warming their tires, but in practice in general, right there as he's maybe a little bit sideways. Maybe that was just me, but definitely very possible to be just a bit sideways through NASCAR's turns 1 and 2 onto the back straightaway.
Yeah, and this is where things get really, really tight then. Through the right-hander, down at turn number 3, and then you work yourself up the hill. This is the only roval that we go to that really goes outside the racetrack. Of course, Twin Motegi technically has got an oval, but the only thing that they share is really the pit complex there. Most of the rovals in North America stay entirely within the confines of the racetrack. Here, it's different, and what that does mean is you get a lot of elevation changes. We're going to see lap times come up on the left-hand side of your screen momentarily. Arian De Freitas, fastest guy so far, 109 point something, but actually Greg Zeitz goes faster, 108.902. Philippe Burr now heading himself towards that start-finish line. Will he get himself to provisional pole position? It is a 109.007. That puts him into second place. A couple of drivers still got to turn their laps. Kyle Drunke, Turan, Sasha Gall. We go on board with Turan as he works himself back onto the NASCAR layout.
A little bit sideways, definitely a lot of wheel work here, and I think a little bit slow on the exit, very wide, just barely getting his left side tires onto the grass. Barely missed that actually, but definitely about to wrap up his qualifying time as he'll come off of turn number, well, exactly off the turn before, off the road course in a sense, across the start-finish line. His lap time will send him 109.6 P11.
Yeah, that is slow for Tran. It's an 18-car field here today, and Tran normally works well on tracks that involves an oval. Of course, running part of the oval. We're going to talk about that throughout the course of this race, because the way that you have to approach turns 1 and 2 very different from the rest of the racetrack. You'll go from being potentially 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 wide past start finish straight into turn 1, and you've got to funnel it down to no more than 2 wide as you enter the right-hander down at turn number 3. On board is Sasha Gall then, as he is going to bring that Simitok car through the final corners. Now, pit entry is also another interesting feature about this racetrack that we'll talk about. Gall past start finish line, 109.147. That is good enough for P4.
And I believe Carl Drunke had gotten just a bit of the grass, so that really invalidated his lap time, as he unfortunately wrecked down at the very end of his qualifying run. Well, after, I should say, but it was in the final few corners there, just on the road course. I think he just got a bit of that grass, so unfortunately, lap time, it did not count for that number 10, but that pit entry definitely is interesting, a lot more forgiving in a sense, because you have so much room to work with as compared to the NASCAR turn 4, where you have to dive down to the inside, or at least get the low lane, the preferred lane, and then have to make your way down into pit road.
Here's a look at the track conditions then. 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and we've got ourselves, and that's 80 degrees Fahrenheit, by the way, on the in the air. It is currently 106 degrees Fahrenheit on track. Partially cloudy, high humidity today, 42%, 5 mile an hour wind speeds. And here's a look then at your starting grid for this edition of the Skip Barber 2K World Cup, presented by DES Simulation. And it is Greg Seats, pole position, 108.902, the only driver in the 108 here today. Philippe Leber alongside him, front row of the grid. Run number 2 will have Aaron Freighter on the inside, and Sasha Gall getting that lap time late on in qualifying to move himself to the outside of that second row. Justin Tipton and Stephen Stiles on that third row. Enzo Cantor, Simon Edwards in row number 4. Then row 5, Chris Malcolm in 9th place, and Andrea Amon rounds out your top 10. Neil Kemp, 11th place, Tran in 12th. 13th, Brian Dewell. 14th place, Mick Watson. Your non-qualifiers here today, Diego Francisco, Anthony Catt, Carl Drunke, and Rob Adams, as the drivers then are about to head themselves down to the starting grid for this edition of the 2K World Cup, presented by DES Simulation. Final thoughts before we go green then.
Well, right now, I'm definitely looking to see what would happen into the first corner, and, well, in this case, more the first chicane, because that back straightaway, that hard right-hand 90-degree turn, definitely going to be causing some bottleneck. I would not be surprised if it did.
Yeah, we've got all the drivers now lined up on the starting grid. We're ready to go racing. Greg Seats, pole position. Lights are on. Light, go out. We go racing for 30 laps then in the 2K World Cup, as the drivers will try and find their way towards turn number 1 and 2 for the first time. This is the oval part of the layout, so when they're at full racing speed, you're likely to see quite a bit of drafting here. Now they'll exit NASCAR turn 2, and this is where things are going to get a little bit tighter as they head themselves into turn number 3. That long right-hander, no. And that's the P2 turnaround. That's Philippe Leber, dumped to the rear of the field.
I was right about the bottleneck. Somehow everyone else made it through. So far, so good. Maybe a little bit of contact here and there on some side pods, but Philippe Leber just completely went to the tail end of the field.
Yep, there's a replay then on board of Philippe Leber. That's from the front. He had absolutely no warning. It was only him that really got involved in incidents down in that first corner. We'll get ourselves one more look at it, shall we, as we come into turn 2. There we are from up above, and well, Philippe Leber is not going to be happy with that one at all. Here's a better angle. We can see it now. It looks like Aaron Freighter just ran into the rear of him.
Yeah, from what I've seen, definitely misjudged that distance for sure. A few drivers already heading to pit road. Enzo Canta and Steven Stoyles, and possibly 2 drivers that have gotten damage from some contact, but very interesting to see why they're here in pit road early on.
Potentially penalties. Just having a look there, Enzo Canta. Looks like he is going to drive all the way through pit road and out to the other side. So, yeah, indeed. So then it was a Pit stop, pit lane drive-through penalty there for Enzo Cantus. So now we know how long it takes to get through pit road. 21 seconds plus the time it actually takes for you to do your pit stop itself. We're on board right now. Mick Watson, P10 in this race. Live timing and scoring will be available in just 1 moment's time. Visit racebot.tv/timing for that one. Go a little bit further up for your field though. Let's go on board with Justin Tipton in the number 5 car as he works himself through that very long left-hander as he merges back now onto the inside of the oval. These final couple of corners, you're taking the inside of the oval, but they are very, very fast here, Gary.
That's really interesting to see how that speed works here, and well, that's just everything. Like you mentioned, the draft could be coming into play here. I would not, I'm actually going to be interested to see how that plays out, because right now in practice, I know for sure that Greg Zietz had set the fastest lap time as a, I believe a 108.2, although I may be a little bit incorrect on that, going to double check. But right now, still quick fastest is Greg Zietz with at the moment a 108.9, and yeah, that was the 108.2 that was fastest for Zietz.
Yeah, and he's already got a 1.5 second advantage as they work themselves up the hill. Once again, we've got a car turned around, upside down on its roof. That is Neil Kemp then. Second victim of turn 3 here today. Let's have ourselves a look at the replay of this one as Neil Kemp comes into the corner. Is this going to be another punt from the rear? Oh, no. Yeah, he just gets turned into there as he was minding his own business on the outside of turn 3. He just gets completely turned upside down. So he's gone back to pit road, and that is our second victim. Himself is on pit road. Rob Adams is on pit road as well. So some early incidents has forced 2 drivers on towards pit road, potential retirees from this event. So we're down to 16 drivers in this race. One driver, though, who has been able to make a little bit out of early incident is Simon Edwards. He's up 3 places as another incident then for Philippe Leber, and this was coming on to the inside part of the racetrack again. Here's the replay. Up right now as Philippe Leber. This is going to be all by himself. Catches the curb and loops it then as he comes back onto the oval.
And it's like a complete loss of grip on the entire right-hand side of those, or on the entire right side tires. That just completely caused him to spin around for that, unfortunately. So more bad luck for that number 2 machine. Hopefully he can somehow recover from that during the pit stop cycles.
Yeah, he's a long way back though. And this is not the kind of race that Leber would normally expect to want to have. We can actually show you the gap between himself and your race leader. It's up already to almost 25 seconds after just 3 laps worth of racing. So that's already a pit stop or so that Philippe Leber is behind your leading trio as we go and turn our attention back to 3rd place and Justin Tipton on the rear of Sasha Goyle. It's worth noting though that Greg Zietz has got himself a 1.6 second advantage already over your field, and he got that advantage early on, of course, because of the incident that we saw down at turn 3 on lap number 1. He's just been able to hold it since that point, Gary.
And it's been doing a wonderful job at holding it. Someone who hasn't, though, was Aaron DeFrita, who actually got a little bit loose on the exit of that 90-degree right-hand turn, and now that will send him to position number 5 as Simon Edwards was right behind him, and he'll make his way a very quick pass up to P4, a little bit catching the curb there on the left-hand side, and there goes DeFrita trying to make a move on the left-hand side, just can't quite get there in time, nearly got squeezed there under the grass.
Yeah, there's the replay of the first part as you saw Simon Edwards just able to take the inside line. Then, of course, you've got this long sweeping carousel. What's an American racetrack without a carousel? As Simon Edwards actually gets a little bit loose on the curb through the center of the carousel. That's what allowed DeFrita to get right back behind. Fastest lap today so far, that's been set by Greg Zietz, 108.527. And of course, he's in the lead, so he's not getting any draft helping him out along the way. We go back on board of our DeFrita, and Simon Edwards is a little bit lucky there, because normally if you hit that curve at the center and the inside of the carousel, that back end can really step out on you.
Yeah, it definitely can, and it's really unfortunate that it can't step out, so you have to be very careful at some points, right? That time around, DeFrita, great job at controlling it, still laying right on top of that back bumper of Simon Edwards. At this point, just possibly, wouldn't be surprised if DeFrita was following, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure he would also be trying somehow, some way to get a position. Doesn't look to the left-hand side this time around, and it opts to stay in that slipstream right behind that number 15.
Yeah, just to let you know.
52, rather.
You're right. Just to let you know, we are running on a limited camera operation. It's a bit like good old style club racing, so we're going to have to get a little bit of inventive with some of these camera angles to make sure we can show you everything we can here today. But that's your battle going on. 3rd and 4th place on track. Behind, you've got yourself Mick Watson, Diego Francisco, closely separated. And Tran, well, he had a bad qualifying, but he's worked himself up quite a few places so far in this race. Outside your top 10 from 12th up into 7th position in the number 21 car. And he's actually got teammate Andrea Amon just ahead as they come down into 3.
That teammate can definitely help out in some ways, maybe not. Hopefully that can be the case, as Mick Watson actually will get side by side with Diego Francisco, the 48 on the left-hand side. Preferred lane here into this cornering right here. Very long and, interestingly enough, essentially a banked corner, just that first portion there. So you never really see that on the outside of a racetrack, but elevation changes here, as you mentioned, definitely throwing a little bit of a wrench into things.
Yeah, and it's all about getting on the power as early as you can as you get out of that right-hander, because you need the powers and the momentum as you come up the hill into the carousel, as we just saw the replay then of Francisco and Watson. Justin Tipton goes purple, setting the fastest lap of the day, getting onto the rear of Sasha Goyle right now. So Tipton starting to put the pressure on for 2nd place. We expect it to be the new style of racing in the 2K World Cup. 2 pit stops potentially to the end. Of course, we'll know in a few laps' time exactly what that situation is going to play out as. But Sasha Goyle, last time by, let's have a look at the lap times. Actually, no, we're not going to do that because we've got De Freitas going side by side with Simon Edwards into the carousel. Mick Watson also going side by side with Anthony Catt right now. So we've got more battles going on. And first of all, Simon Edwards is able to keep that position. And it looks as though that Mick Watson has lost a spot to Anthony Catt.
Anthony Catt did not take a qualifying time, interestingly enough. So he's doing a wonderful job so far, as he's up to P9. And right now I'm just watching this little bit of a train here for 6th, 7th, and 8th of both the all 3 drivers, the 9, the 21, the 48. So watching them run right now, it's quite interesting because Francisco isn't really trying to make a move. He did get to the back bumper of Tran, but right now it's going to be a battle up ahead of Francisco as they go into NASCAR turn 1. I thought there was going to be a little bit of contact there as Amon almost make contact on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of a Tran's machine.
Yeah, and Tran able to get past his teammate. It's a bit of a TT Racing squabble going on. It's just now you've got the 48 car, Diego Francisco, looking to the outside of Andrea Amon as they work themselves up the hill once again. Just to let you know, by the way, the incident we saw on the replay, what happened to Mick Watson is he just got himself very loose on the exit of the corner, pushed wide, some sparks coming up from underneath that 666 machine, which essentially cost him that spot. So that's the reason why he is now down at the very rear of your top 10. We go back though to Ariane De Freitas, continuing to put the pressure on Simon Edwards. Of course, De Freitas lost his spot a couple of laps ago, 4th place, due to the fact that he had a small moment down at turn number 3, but now he's hunting down Simon Edwards again as they work now 1/3 of this race. We scored complete this time around. Ariane De Freitas looking down to the inside in NASCAR turn number 1 and 2. Just can't hold the inside line. This is the thing about the banking here, Gary, that a lot of the road racers will struggle to understand. The banking at New Hampshire is almost unique in terms of NASCAR, in the fact that it's not progressive banking, it's not parabolic banking, it's stepped banking. So as you go up the lanes, you literally go up. It's like going up a curb almost from one lane to another.
That's very interesting, especially since De Vries was half on that very flat lane and half on the, again, like you mentioned, that portion of the stepped banking where pretty much everybody is. No one really uses that very bottom lane where it's incredibly flat. You really don't get a lot of grip there. And on the free to a little bit on the curbs there on the exit of turn number 10. We'll see himself a little bit, probably about 2 car lengths back. But again, that's still that slipstream could be playing into effect, as well as maybe pit stops upcoming. I'm going to assume maybe 3 or 4 laps from now.
Yeah, this track is similar in a number of ways to the Milwaukee Mile, just that it has actually less banking. It's 4/7 grade is the technical term for it here. I remember once being able to do a flat-out qualifying lap in an IndyCar here on iRacing, and it was one of the most traumatizing experiences of my life, because if you were just 6 inches too far to the left, you'd spin. 6 inches too far to the right, you'd spin. It was a nerve-wracking experience, but it is fun to race in these cars, both in IndyCar and in NASCAR. Of course, you also get some of the shorter, some of the cars designed for short tracks. It almost becomes a long track for them here. Tran will go on board with him again as he battles it out with Diego Francisco. And as they work themselves down the hill now into the right-hander, back onto the track. You got to be careful of that curve as well on the right-hand side as you get back onto the oval. We talk very often, Gary, about the one on the inside as you come out of the oval, but one coming back in as well. Because you're at higher speed, you clip that, the back end of the car will step out on you.
And we've seen that before. I forgot, unfortunately, lost my mind on actually who that happened to, but we definitely seen an example of that where I believe it was LeBear actually.
Yeah.
That was, in turn 12, but between turns 12 and 13, where he got a piece of the curb on the right-hand side, completely lost any long grip and spun right around. So if that wasn't an example, then I don't know what can be, but I'm pretty sure that, I hope not, but if somebody does push a little bit too hard, we may be seeing that as well on the exit of turn number 10.
There is Tipton and Sasha Goyle once again. Fantastic showing so far by Sasha Goyle in the number 17 car as they work themselves down the hill. So it seems to be one stop to the end here today, because when lap number 12 of 30, that pit window will now be open for drivers to come in and make their scheduled pit stop. Of course, you have to do a pit stop here in the 2K World Cup. You talked about it a little bit before we went to the green flag here, as we've got one car on towards pit road. That is Ian De Freitas in the number 86 car. He's got a habit of coming in earlier than other people around him. Going to show the replay of him coming on towards pit road. It looks very simple. It is easier than NASCAR in some ways here. But the thing is, Gary, you've got to be careful to slow it down to pit road speed of 45 miles an hour.
I have to make sure that you don't overshoot, because for De Freitas, Malcolm also joins him on pit road for that exit, going from just about 80 miles an hour down to 45 within about maybe a second to 2 seconds if you're lucky enough. And I just have to make sure that you also stay below the yellow line on the exit. This also has I believe the pit lane exit, and I don't know if De Freitas was under it in time. We'll have to find out, but there's also that blue cone on pit road exit. All 4 tires essentially have to be under that. So a lot of factors here playing for pit stops.
Yeah, Justin Tipton in 3rd place. He's going to stay out on track. So no pit stop yet for him. No pit stop for your top 3 drivers. But we have seen Ian De Freitas pit from P number 5 on track. So it is Zeet from Goyle, from Tipton, Edwards, Francisco, Tran, Amon, Watson, Cat and Cantor as your top 10, although Anthony Cat is now on pit road from 9th place. It's just your top 8 drivers who haven't yet come on towards pit road. Greg Zietzo's kind of been on a mission by himself. He's got himself the gap up now to 2.1 seconds over Sasha Goyle. He's not really been fighting that hard here today. It seems more about managing the gap early on more than anything else, but Greg Zietz has done a sterling job, and he's been pulling out most laps so far in this race.
A very, very great job so far for Greg Zietz, even though he's got nothing separating himself from Goyle and Tipton. He does have, like you mentioned, a great gap between himself and those other 2 drivers, where Tipton and Goyle are pretty much right next to each other. In a sense, Tipton just on the tail end. He actually ran the fastest lap so far this race, an 18.255. And all right, now fastest driver for the last time around still remains to be Tipton with an 1 minute 8.288.
Yeah, and I tell you what, if it was a woman 18, it'd probably be about my pace around this racetrack as Tipton comes through. So, I've had a couple of good races on the oval. They're always really hard races, though, when you race on oval. Be it in an IndyCar, of course, they last ran in 2011. That infamous race, the double bird by Will Powell, and they restarted on the damp, I'm going to call it, moist racetrack. But of course, they run 2 races traditionally as part of the Monster Energy Cup Series. It's always a good track to come to. Hard to overtake at, but frustrations often get the better of drivers, as we've got now just your top 7 drivers yet to come on towards pit road. Here is your race leader, Greg Zietz. Is he going to come on towards pit road this time by? Answer to that question is going to be a resounding no for him. What about Sasha Gore? Second place, third place aren't coming in just yet. Simon Edwards heading himself now through the final corner, so he won't come on towards pit road either. Diego Francisco will stay out on track. Turan will stay out on track. Mick Watson is going to stay out on track as well. There is Mick Watson in P number 7. So what we're going to essentially have is a bit of chaos in about 3 laps time, Gary, when you got the drivers who did the early pit stop merging back with the drivers who are going to go late. And of course, they don't take tyres here, but the fuel loads and the times they can do on the fuel loads, that will be the difference maker.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a huge difference maker. And in fact, we can't really count and say that it's exactly 7 drivers. We actually have 8 drivers that haven't went to pit road. It's Enzo Cante. He didn't really make a pit stop, as he did go through pit road, but that was just for the drive-through penalty earlier on the first lap. So we actually have 8 drivers, and Cante, although a little bit far back, still has yet to go pit road for the time being.
Probably the driver who's most unhappy today is Philippe Leber. He has come onto a pit road after being turned around at turn number 3 of this race and having a second spin all by himself. He languishes right now in 16th place, and he is 30 seconds. Actually, no, a little bit less than that. He's about 25 seconds behind your race leader. So interestingly, Philippe Leber hasn't actually lost anything. Just want to get confirmation of this one. And yeah, he's actually gone a lap down, of course. That's because of the pit stops, Gary. But in terms of my data, he's not really lost much since that second spin. The only issue is, of course, he's not had the time to claw anything back.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. He's just been with 2 spins so far this race. It's really nothing to do, as he did pass Carl Dranke for position 15. It's really pretty much all been bad luck since the very start of this race, and then the second spin just really added the insult to injury.
Anthony Catt down the inside of the Universidad Isabella 1 positive sim racing car by Brian Doell. Doell will take the high line through turn number 2. Now they'll try and get themselves evened out as they go down in towards the left-hander, then turn number 3, the right-hander, the difficult right-hander. Anthony Catt doing the over-under, and Anthony Catt is going to stay side by side as they head themselves up the hill towards the carousel. You got yourselves your top 3, or most of your top 3 or 4 on towards pit road. We're going to keep it low with this battle for a moment, and Brian Doell able to hold off Anthony Catt, but they stay side by side as they work themselves now down the hill. A couple of cones being kicked up. Now the inside line will be advantageous to Anthony Catt, but he has to finally fall back into line, and everyone apart from Sasha Gore and Justin Tipton has now been on pit road. There's your race leader, Greg Zietz, or he will be your race leader after everyone pits. 12.9 second pit stop for him. Steven Stores is showing us a 5.3 second pit stop, which seems to be too good to be true. But 12.9 is about average there, the pit stop time for Greg Zietz. So not taking too risky a chance here today, even though Arjen de Freitas did a 12-second pit stop. De Freitas is now 7 seconds back from Greg Zietz.
And it looks like both your top 2, oh man, are going to be in pit road. Justin Tipton a little bit loose on the entry, but managed to save that. I don't think he really knew where to go to slow down, but both Tipton and Gorel both in the pit road, so this could and actually should hand the lead back over to the 74 of Greg Zietz.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would say it was one of my cue cards, but that would imply that I actually write cue cards before any of these races we commentate on. But one of the points to note was that if you got 2 or 3 drivers coming towards pit road at the same time, you would often see them banning because of the fact that it's quite a high pit lane speed limit here. It can be difficult sometimes for everyone to make it without having an incident. Sasha Gold comes out in second place. A longer pit stop there, a much longer pit stop by Justin Tipton of 16.3 seconds. And, well, maybe the data's not lying to us. Steven Stowers is shown in 3rd place right now. 5.3 second pit stops. He's got to find another pit stop somewhere. He cannot get to the end, surely, on 5.3 seconds of fuel.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't think he really changed his tires. I'm not seeing any difference in the stint number, as it's still counting from, well, pretty much ever since the start of the race.
He started at the start of the race, yeah. So he's had a 5.3 second pit stop, so that must have been on lap number 1. Yeah, lap number 1, he must have come on towards pit road. So, yeah, we do apologise. Showing him having a pit stop, but he's had a long stint there. Of course, that's showing data. Only part of the data is correct in that point. He does actually now come on towards pit road. So, yeah, that one is confusion averted. So, second pit stop of the day then for Steven Stowers in the 215 car. That restores order in the Galaxy. Greg Zeitz, Sasha Gore, 1.2 seconds. But more importantly for Sasha, he's now got no one behind him because of the 16.3 second pit stop there by Justin Tipton.
I think Tipton wanted to sacrifice those 3 extra seconds for fuel just to make sure that he makes it to the end, or at least makes it to the next pit stop. Maybe enough to make it a little bit over, but I'll have to figure out what happens between now and then. But it's a 0.3 second pit stop difference from what I'm seeing between Zeitz and Gorel, and, well, we see where Zeitz is, and it's pretty much 13 flat for your current leader. And right now, Gorel, at this point, I think just like earlier on, really just riding back and just letting things happen, maybe just trying to make his run and figure out what he has to do. He has no pressure from behind, like you mentioned, as Tipton is very, very far back.
Yeah, and here's a look at the pit data. So Sasha Gore was only a tenth of a second slower in terms of the pit stop itself, 13 seconds to 12.9. But have a look at the figure on the left-hand side of your screen, the one that says 36.1 second for Sasha Gore. When you turn that graphic over, 35.5 there. So half a second gained by Greg Zeitz coming onto pit road. That is a lot there, and that's the difference between Gore being in the tow at the start of this run and him only now getting into the tow about 4 laps into it. And what we saw there, Gary, because of the fact that Sasha, oh my God, that is a lot of snap oversteer there for Sasha Gore as he worked through the carousel. But because of the fact that he was fighting with Tipton coming onto the lane, he lost half a second because he couldn't get his exact brake marker.
That half second definitely mattered, and, well, at the moment he's almost literally a half second from that back bumper Zeitz, but he's actually 0.8 seconds. He's just hovering around 0.8 seconds, and not really. Actually, he was the fastest last time around, 2/10 of a second faster than Greg Zeitz, so very slowly and methodically closing the gap this time around, waiting for the times to tick over. Still 3/10 faster is Sasha Gore, so it's just a very slow and very methodical. He's going to have to, at some point, the draft will play into effect. I definitely would not doubt that, and at that point we could have a battle on our hands, but right now, like you mentioned, that half second could have saved him pretty much from him having to do this.
Yeah, on board with Simon Edwards in the number 52 car. Of course, you see Simon Edwards quite often on Monday night skippies here on RaceSpot TV, so don't forget to join us tomorrow for that. That is Monday night skippies in support of the Calm Zone, a male mental health charity. As you'll see Simon Edwards and many, many other members of the club UK and Ireland community duke it out, as you've seen them actually do now for 5 years on RaceSpot TV. Yep, it's our 5-year anniversary of Monday Night Skippies, and it is tomorrow, live here on RaceSpot TV. And, well, we've been in Skip Barber races between this and the Monday Night Skippies broadcast. I mean, we've done we're getting close to about 450 broadcasts now of Skip Barber races between Sunday nights and Monday nights.
Definitely a lot of broadcasts for sure. 450 is an impressive number, but definitely the most interesting thing for that would be the first 100. That's for sure. Definitely the, well, in this case, the 100th. So
Yeah.
definitely very, very interesting. That's been 5 years. 5 years is a long time. 5 years ago, I don't think I was even on iRacing, actually.
I was, unfortunately. I still remember 5 years ago. Everything looked different, but it all looks the same. On board with Chris Malcolm in the number 8 car. He is about a second behind Stephen Stoyles in the number 215 after making his second pit stop of the day. We were riding on board a moment ago with Simon Edwards. The reason why we were riding on board with him, not because I wanted to do a nice quick plug for another broadcast, it was because of the fact that Edwards has fallen behind Arian de Freitas, and that is because Simon Edwards' pit stop was 13.7 seconds, Arian de Freitas 12.0 seconds, but of course, we always expect Arian de Freitas to be the driver to take the risk on the fuel. He's been doing it for probably almost 5 years here in the 2K World Cup, Gary, but de Freitas is known for underfueling his car. It's got him 4th position back, but Edwards is charging right now.
Well, speaking of charging, while Edwards does that, so does Sasha Grohl, because he just set the fastest lap. Again, still 3/10 faster, but now the fastest lap of the race. Just about 2/200ths of a second faster than Diego Francisco. Minute 8.061 seconds, or 0.062 from what I'm seeing over here, but very, very impressive either way, and definitely got to the back bumper. And well, just somehow surprisingly 6 laps to go, Sasha Grohl is just on that back bumper, still closing the gap to Greg Zietz. Now he just has to wait and find the right opportunity to capitalize on as he sticks right behind and almost the exact same tire tracks of that 74.
And of course, if you do like your iRacing action, you can subscribe to the iRacing Esports YouTube page right now as Sasha Grohl goes purple, 108.029 as he's right on the rear of your battle for the race lead. We're on board with him now, youtube.com/iRacing Esports Network. Get your racing fix. Broadcast every single day of the week. Marcel's Racesport TV, of course, the official provider of the iRacing World Championship Series broadcast, as well as a lot of fantastic content from other broadcasters as well. So, this is your battle for the race lead. Sasha Grohl, Greg Zietz, less than 10 laps to go. In fact, there'll be 5 laps to go at the line for Sasha to find a way of getting past Greg Zietz. And, well, there are some easy overtaking opportunities. You've got down the start-finish straight. You've got in towards turn 3. You've then also got into the carousel. But the thing for Sasha Grohl is he's got to pick one and make it work. You can't just try and do half moves around here, Gary. What you've got to do is line it up, and sometimes you have to spend a lap and a half to find that one move.
You also have to take that time to set that move up as well. And, well, from the distance between Grohl and Zietz right now, it could take a little bit of a while as cars are slightly screeching there, so they're just a bit sideways there through turns 1 and 2. But pretty much right here, as you mentioned, definitely passing opportunity, but at the same time, you have to take the time to set it up and get down to the inside, next to the right-hand side. And then right here into the carousel, as you mentioned, definitely another opportunity, but this banking right here, as well as the distance, definitely going to be a little bit troublesome to figure out how to set up that pass.
Here we are from the rear, Greg Zietz there. We are down to less than 5 to go in the 2K World Cup, presented by DES Simulation here on Racesport TV. Live timing and scoring, racesport.tv/timing. And of course, you can get in contact with the 2K World Cup on Twitter at 2K World Cup. Simon Edwards, Arian de Freitas, that is still going on for 4th place on track. It is 4 tenths of a second between them. It is 3 tenths of a second in this battle for the race lead. 4 laps to go now around the magic mile, although the oval is actually just a tad over the mile, but we'll ignore that one. Sasha Grohl then taking the outside line. He's kind of actually not wanting to get into the toe to make sure he's got enough of a gap into turn 3 to then put the power down, Gary, and then get the momentum up the hill.
Yeah, getting that momentum definitely is key, especially if you're just trying to set it up for the last few moments, in some cases the last lap, or in some cases somebody going wide like Greg Zietz just did, just ever so slightly, and that is definitely creating a little bit of more of an advantage for Sasha Gorel as he's right on the back bumper still of Greg Zietz, but pretty much right here you can see that Greg Zietz great exit actually this time around, and with a little bit of lap traffic, a little bit of a wide exit from Sasha Gorel, it's definitely going to play into effect, but Steven Stoll has actually finally gotten to pit road, it seems.
Yeah, if this was a year ago, then we'd be seeing these guys going side by side for the last 3 laps through NASCAR Turn 1 and Turn 2. Things are a little bit different these days, the way these cars are designed to drive, but Sasha Gorel going to try and get the inside line as they battle for the race lead now. In towards turn number 3. Sasha Gorel on the outside. Can he plant it there? No, he's going to have to duck back into line, but he should get the momentum as they work themselves up the hill now. And the lap traffic of Steven Stolz could become crucial in this motor race. Gorel on the outside as they work themselves now through the carousel. 2.5 laps to go in this motor race, and we've got ourselves a fantastic finish here in the 2K World Cup. And these are two drivers that do not give an inch, and Sasha is just haunting now, searching for an opportunity.
You have to be careful with those opportunities, though, because here we go through turn 10, there's turn 12, and just on the exit right there, as that time around, it was Gorel that actually kept it onto the racetrack. Everyone's been keeping, or at least mowing the grass there at that portion of the racetrack, but still a great exit for Greg Zietz, and still a little bit of an advantage here this time around. So great opportunity by Sasha Gorel to set it up, maybe having another chance to do it again this time around, but no, as looks like Zietz will hang on to it for the time being as we hit 2 laps to go, at least under 1.5, and right to the back bumper, a little bit wide, dives it down. And we actually could be seeing Steven Stolz play this effect in the final lap, although I am not sure at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be mighty, mighty close. And we're going to come to the white flag this time by into the carousel, though, for the penultimate time is Sasha. And, yeah, they are going to catch Steven Stolz. It's where they're going to catch Steven Stolz. That's going to be the crucial part of this motor race right now. So Stoyles is going to get a lot of airtime here, and he's gone wide actually as they come back onto the oval, and this is going to start getting to the dirty air for Greg Zietz. Gorel getting loose then on the exit of the third to last corner, loses momentum. This is the chance now for Greg Zietz to maybe put the lap down car between them in towards turn number 1, final time of this motor race, and Steven Stolz moves completely out the way then, letting both your race leaders go past. But Sasha Gorel has lost out now. He's 4 attempts for a second back. Tran on pit road, he's out of fuel.
Very, very disappointing for that number 21 machine, no doubt. But right into turn 3, Sasha Gorel definitely trying to push all that he can for the time being as they head onto the road course portion on the outer side of the racetrack. Into the carousel they go, but I don't think Gorel really has enough.
Yeah, well, on board is Simon Edwards. He's looking to get P4 on this, the final lap of the race, over Arjen de Freitas. They work into the carousel then for their final time, and Simon Edwards has not been able to do anything over the Freitas. We'll go back, though, to a battle for the race lead. It's down to a third of a second again between Greg Zietz and Sasha Gorel, but it looks as though that Greg Zietz has got himself the momentum he needs onto the front straightaway for the final time, and it is going to be Greg Zietz and the number 74 machine claiming victory here in the 2K World Cup, and he does so in impressive fashion. And de Freitas, he is out of fuel, and we often say just how close it is. And, well, I will say one thing, this could have been a masterpiece then by Simon Edwards, because he knows how aggressive de Freitas is on the fuel, but Simon Edwards refused to go past de Freitas until the last lap.
Very smart move. That essentially caused de Freitas to use everything that he's got, and well, that definitely played into what is this? I think this is the second race that he's actually ran out of fuel coming to the checkered flag.
Yep, and there we are. You can see out of fuel, and the Evolution Racing Team number 86 car slows it down, finishes outside of your top 5 in the end then. So what was a promising day early on for De Freitas turns out actually only to be a P6 for him here today. Let's have a look through your finishing order here in the 2K World Cup. Greg Zietz, your winner by 0.3 of a second over Sasha Goyle. Drove a race where he led every lap except for the time that he was on pit road before some of the other drivers around him. Sasha Goyle second place, Justin Tipton third, and Simon Edwards able to get fourth place on the last lap after coming out behind Aaron De Freitas after the round of pit stops. De Freitas' fuel issues at the end promotes Diego Francisco up into 5th place, De Freitas in 6th, Anthony Catt in 7th place, Andrea Amon in 8th, 9th place Enzo Cantor, 10th place Chris Malcolm. We go back and show you the rest of the results then. Philippe Leber finishing outside the top 10. That'll be a bit of a damper for his championship hopes when, of course, drop weeks do apply here in the 2K World Cup. Brian Duell, 12th place, Carl Dronke in 13th, the last driver on the lead lap. Tran, after having to do a splash and dash at the end, finishes 1 lap down. Steven Stiles had to do 3 pit stops in the end, finishes 1 lap down. Neil Kemp in 16th, Rob Adams in 17th, and Mick Watson rounds out your 18-car field here today. Well, that was interesting. And we had a bit of fun out here today, didn't we, Gary?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's, my goodness. Well, New Hampshire definitely produces amazing racing, but with the road course here, definitely produced a lot more amazing races and definitely a little bit of different factors here and there.
Yep, we are going to have to talk incoherently for a couple of moments as we see whether there are going to be any drivers that will take the opportunity to come and talk to us. But, of course, 2K World Cup, they will return in a couple of weeks' time. And as ever, you will see it here on Racesport TV. And the penultimate round of the championship will be at Watkins Glen International in 2 weeks' time. And we wrap things up on September the 1st at Suzuka here for the championship. Well, we have got Philippe Leber to talk to. Philippe, that race went downhill from turn 3, and you've got to be disappointed after that one.
Oh yeah, definitely, because I could have wrapped up the championship today if I had a top 3 finish. And Arjan just ran in the back of me for some reason. He apologized, so it's all good, but it was a shame.
Yeah, and it seemed to be that you got a little bit frustrated out on track because in lap 3 you had an incident down coming back onto the oval and the inside portion towards the end of the lap on the inside of NASCAR turn 3 and 4. What happened there?
Oh, I guess you didn't see that in the second lap, Rob Adams spun right in front of me, and I couldn't avoid him, so I hit him straight on, and my whole suspension was completely wrecked. So it was very hard to keep the car on the track. So, and I spun at like, I think 3 times there right before the finish line.
Well, 2 rounds of the championship to go. We've got Watkins Glen, which traditionally has always been a fun track for the 2K World Cups. It's going to be, of course, very different this time out with the changes, of course, to the draft situation, etc. But what's your thoughts as we head to Watkins Glen in a couple of weeks?
I really look forward to it because I really like the track. It's the draft fest, so it's going to be all strategy and no speed, so it's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Well, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at Watkins Glen International. We've got your race winner, though, Greg Zietz, and, well, congratulations on the victory. You pretty much led every single lap unless you're on pit road and other people on a different strategy, so almost lights a flag for you. You've got to be happy with that.
Yeah, well, super happy. Shame what happened to Philippe. I don't know what happened. They got tangled up behind me, but I tried to take advantage of it and push as hard as I could after that to keep everybody out of my draft.
In terms of the strategy here today, you came on towards pit road a little bit early, in fact, a lap early in the Sasha Goyle, Justin Tipton around you, and you got a slightly faster pit stop, but you closed down by Sasha in the last couple of laps. Are you worried at all about him trying to make a move anywhere?
Yeah, I was a little bit worried. I took extra fuel because I came up short at other tracks and I wanted to be safe. Probably took a little bit too much. But yeah, I wanted to come out with him outside my draft and he was just on the edge of it. And then I think on the second lap out, I pushed really hard and pushed a little too hard into turn 4 and lost some time there. And he got my draft in. And so I knew, I just have to keep pushing super hard the rest of the race.
Well, coming into this race, you were third place in the championship. You're going to leapfrog Andrew Pecorio now, probably into second place in the championship. 2 rounds to go. The fight is on for second place in the championship. Do you think you've got 2 tracks that you're looking forward to in Watkins Glen and Suzuka?
Yeah, I think I like Suzuka better. Anything can happen at Watkins Glen with such the huge draft there. I think it'll be interesting, but yeah, the second half of the season has been great for me. The first half was a total disaster, so I'm pretty happy with the second half so far.
Well, before we let you go, Greg, shout out sponsors who gets it done for that winning number 74 car.
Yeah, all my teammates at TT Racing, we did a lot of practice races together this week, and I think that helped prepare me. I think I was ready for any attacks by Sasha, I think. And then, of course, TT Racing and you guys for the broadcast.
Well, thank you very much there. And Greg Seats in the TT Racing number 74 car is your winner, and that is all we've got time for in the 2K World Cup here today. Don't forget, you can join us in a couple of weeks' time as we head ourselves to probably the most exciting race of the year. If you like your drafting action, we're going to head ourselves to upstate New York. Actually, not a million miles away from where we are today, and New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It's a short drive down the road to Watkins Glen as we'll be back in 2 weeks' time as ever on the 2K World Cup. And thank you to the presenting sponsor of this series, DES Simulation. From Gary Weaver and myself, Will Vincent, good night from New Hampshire Motor Speedway.